What's up guys, Shinkiro here with another Inferno Wizard guide. This time I'll be covering Azmodan, the ending boss of Act 3. Now since my kill of Azmodan is only about 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm actually going to run through this video twice like I did for Belial, and this will hopefully give me enough time to cover everything I want to cover. Out of all the ending Act bosses, I really feel like Azmodan is the easiest of the bunch. Both Belial and Diablo are pretty technical fights, and they have some abilities that have a very small margin of error to dodge. On the other hand, the Butcher has an enrage timer, and that serves as a gear/DPS check. And since Azmodan has neither of these things, I feel like this makes him a pretty easy boss encounter. And actually, I feel like the hardest part about Azmodan would be simply getting to Azmodan. When you're running through the core, the area right before you face Azmodan, you can get some really nasty champion packs. Especially if you get the teleporting minotaurs and they have 4 fitzes. And there's a couple of tricks you can do to kind of get past these guys to make it a little easier to get to Azmodan. The first thing, this is actually kind of difficult to do, but if there's a place on the map that's kind of out of the way where you're not going to really run past it, you can kind of kite the mobs there and get killed by them there, and they won't aggro onto you when you sneak past them the next time. And this is kind of difficult to do because in my attempts there hasn't really been too many places that are kind of off to the side where you can kind of hide the champion packs. The second thing you can do, and this might feel a little cheap, is if you kite the mobs all the way back to where you spawn and then have them kill you, after you respawn you can kind of teleport and just book it away, and eventually they'll stop chasing you. So this is kind of another way you can use to kind of sneak past them. And then the last thing you can do is, again, you can just reset the map or what have you altogether by just leaving the game and entering the game again. And this will kind of change around what spawns and what packs you get. So maybe you'll be able to get something that's easier for you to kill or to kite. But these are just some things to keep in mind when you're trying to get to Azmodan. Now, on to the fight. Azmodan has a few abilities, all of them are pretty easy to avoid, and none of them are actually that deadly. The first ability he has is he'll throw a fireball. And out of all his abilities, this is probably the ability that hits the hardest, but it's also the easiest ability he has to avoid. Now, the fireball will just kind of fire you around until it either hits you, hits the ground, or it hits a pole. And it'll kind of lose altitude as it chases you. So what you want to do is you kind of just want to kite it around in a circle, and eventually it'll hit the ground and explode. It moves really slowly, so you should never ever really get hit by this, and if you do get hit by it, it'll probably kill you. Unless your HP/resist pool is high enough. The next ability he has is he'll summon a kind of transparent red ring on the ground. And this just means get the hell out. Because if you stay in that for more than a couple of seconds, what will happen is it'll start raining down zombie parts. And these zombie parts hit pretty damn hard. I think they hit me for about 5k a tick. So you want to just get out as soon as you can. If you need to teleport out, teleport out. But at this point in Inferno, I really feel like every wizard should have, at minimum, increased movement speed boots. If not, a couple legendaries that also increase movement speed. With these, if you have even 12% increased movement speed, which you should have just by boots, it's pretty easy to get out of these circles. The next ability he has is he'll summon pools of darkness on the ground. And these pools will start off small, and they'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then he'll summon another one. So what you want to do is you kind of just want to run around the room in a circle until they've all spawned. And if you really need to, you can teleport out of them. In fact, if you actually get trapped in one of them, you can actually use Diamond Skin to buy yourself more time to run out of them. Because you shouldn't really have any other use for Diamond Skin other than the rings. Because the fireball should never hit you, and his other abilities should never hit you either. So, in fact, if you actually want to drop Diamond Skin from your spec, I would say this is the one fight you're able to do so. The next ability he has is he'll summon a Dmg. and it'll show up on your mini map, and you really want to kill this as soon as you can, because what will happen is it'll start spawning ads, and you really don't want to get overwhelmed by ads. It has fairly low HP, it goes down pretty quickly, so just burn the thing down as soon as you can, and just keep an eye on your mini map for when it spawns. His last ability, and another easy ability to avoid, is he'll shoot a laser out in front of him, and it'll just kind of follow you around. Again, it moves pretty slowly, pretty easy to avoid. You shouldn't ever really get hit by it. And that pretty much covers every ability Azmodan has. As you can see, they're all pretty easy to avoid. What I did for this fight is I took teleport to kind of teleport me out of the rings and the pools, just kind of as an in case. And since Azmodan moves really slowly, Venom Hydra really ticks quite hard on him. Another thing, I'm using Piercing Orb, which is what I would use for trash, but since I have no stacks of Nephilim Valor, the smarter thing in my mind now would probably have been to use something like Magic Missile, which hits harder than Piercing Orb. But it's okay, you can still kill him with that. And last, Force Armor, Force Weapon. As always, Force Armor is pretty necessary for everything in Inferno, I feel like, after Act 1. And Force Weapon will just make this fight go by so much faster. And since this fight doesn't really have an enrage timer, you can fight him with pretty bad gear and still kill him. So if your gear's a little lacking, you can definitely do this fight. As always, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment on the video, and I'll do my best to answer them as soon as I can. And if you're interested in keeping up with some of my other videos, or my newest videos, please subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And you can click the button right here. As always, guys, I wish you the best of luck in Inferno, and I hope this